Hello Internet, I'm Michael, also known as the Time Wizard, and welcome back to another Thursday Night Magic deck tour. If this is your first time here, or you just want a refresher, these videos are pretty simple. First, we start by talking about the commander and discussing how it works. Then, we're going to talk about the deck strategy and game plan. And finally, we're going to go over the entire deck list, organized into different categories based on the deck synergies and strategy. Just a reminder before we begin, all of our decks, including today's deck, can be found on our website, ThursdayNightMagic.com. Use code TNM10 for 10% off your first order. Now let's get started with the commander. Today, we're looking at Sliver Hivelord, which is a 5-mana, 5/5 sliver that says all slivers you control are indestructible. Honestly, I don't think there's much more to talk about here, because it's that straightforward. Almost all slivers are this simple, following the same formula of all slivers get ability, and Hivelord's is indestructible, which, just in case you don't know, that means damage and effects that say destroy, don't destroy them. It can be exiled, bounced, have its toughness reduced to 0 or less, but it can't be destroyed, and that goes for all of your slivers. Speaking of our slivers, that's literally our game plan. Just play slivers, turn them sideways, and hope for the best. Of course, we have tons of card draw to keep our hand full, and since Hivelord gives everything indestructible, we have a whole suite of board wipes that are essentially one-sided board resets, leaving you alone while decimating your opponents. So what exactly are we trying to slam into our opponent's faces? So like I mentioned earlier, most slivers follow the same formula of all slivers get ability. And in this section, we're going to cover just the slivers that provide straight up keywords like haste, flying, and so on. A couple are excluded because they're in other categories we'll talk about in a few minutes. For the sake of making things easier for the rest of the video, I'm just going to assume that this deck is the only sliver deck at the table, but do keep in mind that some of these slivers pump all slivers and not only yours. So pay attention if there are multiple sliver players at the table. First, Reflex Sliver and Blur Sliver both give haste, and Cloud Shredder Sliver gives haste and flying. Winged Sliver also gives flying, and Spinneret Sliver gives reach. Lance Sliver gives first strike, Fury Sliver is twice as good, giving double strike, but it costs twice as much, and Battering Sliver gives trample. First Sliver's Chosen and Frenzy Sliver both provide temporary boost during combat. Chosen gives Exalted, and Frenzy gives Frenzy 1. Two-Headed Sliver and Belligerent Sliver both give everything Menace, and Venom Sliver, Sidewinder Sliver, and Quick Sliver are all unique in their own right, giving Death Touch, Flanking, and Flash respectively. Slivers all synergize off of each other pretty well as we established in the last section, but sometimes they can be a bit small. Muscle Sliver and Predatory Sliver both give all slivers +1/+1, and Tempered Sliver puts +1/+1 counters on your slivers when they connect with a player. Cleaving Sliver, Bone Splitter Sliver, and Battle Sliver are all basically the same card, being either 4-mana 2/2s or 5-mana 3/3s that pump slivers by +2/0. And lastly, Might Sliver and Magantic Sliver give all slivers +2/+2 and +3/+3 respectively. Hi baby boy, come here. Oh. Hi. You say hi to the camera? Hi. This is Loki, by the way. He's my baby. Okay, go play. Or you can stay in here, that's fine too. Whatever, I don't care. Slivers are notorious for drawing the ire of the rest of the table almost immediately, so it's important to have some ways to protect your slivers and keep them around somehow. Crystalline Sliver gives all slivers Shroud, and Diffusion Sliver essentially gives all of our slivers Ward 2 back before Ward was a keyword. Crypt Sliver lets everything tap to regenerate a sliver, and Dregscape Sliver gives all slivers Unearth 2, allowing us to reanimate them just for that one turn. They get haste and then exile at the end. Some slivers have whole blocks of text for abilities they give to others, and this section is reserved for those lucky few. Hallowhead Sliver and Homing Sliver both let us discard cards to get something else, either straight up looting or silver cycling for another sliver. Harmonic Sliver and Constricting Sliver are both removal, the former of which blows up artifacts and enchantments when a sliver enters the battlefield, and the latter turns your slivers into Oblivion Rings. The best part about this is that with Hivelord out giving them indestructible, there are very few ways for your opponents to get out from under this. Lastly is Lava Belly Sliver, that lets you ping a player or planeswalker and you gain a life whenever a sliver enters. Drawing cards is necessary to stay in the fight, and we have a bunch of ways to do that. Distant Melody and Shamanic Revelation both draw cards for each creature we control, and the latter has the potential to gain us a bunch of life. Military Intelligence and Reconnaissance Mission both draw cards when we attack or deal damage respectively, and Hunter's Insight draws a bunch of cards a single time when a creature connects. Siphon Mine makes everyone discard a card except you, and then you draw a card for each card discarded this way. And Symmetry Matrix is a 4-mana artifact that lets you pay 1 to draw a card whenever a creature enters with equal power and toughness. Reflections of Littjara let us name Slivers as it enters, then we copy Slivers as we cast them, and finally Unite the Coalition does so much that I wasn't sure what category to put it in, but I figured that default mode for most people would be to draw cards with it. But it can also nuke someone's graveyard, phase out permanents, shock something, or blow up an artifact or enchantment. You can choose 5 modes, and each mode can be chosen more than once. Generally, Slivers are going to be the target, so there's not much that can be done about that. So I think that it's best to focus energy on just ending the game. We have 3 dedicated interaction spells in Negate, Putrefy, and Mortify to have some kind of removal available, but oftentimes the best removal is just going to be player removal. I mentioned earlier that Sliver Hivelord is really good when we can blow up the board and reset everyone except us, and we have 5 cards to do this with. Neverrenewal's Disc and Akroma's Vengeance both destroy all creatures, artifacts, and enchantments. Vengeance can be cycled when you don't need it, and Disc is an artifact that conveniently doesn't sacrifice itself, so if you give it Indestructible, you've got a repeatable Wrath. And Depopulate, End Hostilities, and Rout all destroy all creatures with various additional text. Rout can be cast with Flash if we pay more mana, Hostilities can hit equipment and fringe cards like Bestow creatures, and Depopulate will draw us a card 100% of the time when we're doing this with Hivelord on the battlefield. Finally, we're going to run down our lands and ramp. I used to do this in the beginning, but I feel it might be a little bit better at the end. For lands, there are a bunch of basics, some fetches, and 5-color lands. For ramp, we have 3 rocks in Arcane Signet, Commander Sphere, and Mana Geode. For spells, we have Rampant Growth to get 1 basic, and Harrow to sacrifice a land and go get 2 basics. And Cultivate and Kodama's Reach are essentially the same card, letting us go get 2 basics, put 1 into play tapped, and the other into our hand. Finally, the last 2 slivers in our deck are Gemhide Sliver and Mana Weft Sliver. They give all slivers the ability to tap for mana. I thought I'd put them down here at the bottom with the rest of the ramp. Slivers are an absolute menace and will dominate your next game night. If you want to see this deck in action, I play all of our deck tour decks I've done in a game with my friends at the end of each month. Subscribe so you don't miss when that goes live. If you're interested in playing this deck for yourself, you'll find a link in the description, and you can use the coupon code TNM10 for 10% off your first order. If you enjoyed the video, feel free to tap that like button. It adds 1 mana to the YouTube algorithm, and I greatly appreciate it. If you have a suggestion for a future video, leave a comment down below and we'll see what we can do to get to it. While you're down there, feel free to subscribe as well. It supports the channel and lets us know that we're doing something right and we're making content that you want to watch. Anyway, that's everything for today. I'm going to cast a Leveler to exile the remainder of the video, and I'll see you next time.